Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello, good evening. Welcome to this week's second episode. It's 10 to 11 at night, and you might be thinking, I don't know why she even bothers telling us the time because it doesn't make any difference to us. And I'm not sure why I do either. It's just, I guess I like to share that it's actually live and I'm not making it up. And then you're probably thinking, gosh, she's either a really busy person or she has terrible time management skills. And I would like to say it's the former, but there may be an element of the second one in there. Anyway, I'm here and I'm going to fill you in on what I've been doing this week, and I hope you're well. And I hope the second half of your week has gone well. And thank goodness it's the 31st of May tomorrow, because it feels like May has gone on forever. I don't know about you, but it's just been a lot going on, 2 bank holidays, and I really kind of just want it to finish now and get into June, because I think that's going to be much more exciting. Speaking of which, I listened back to the last episode on Tuesday and I ended by saying I thought I'd have some exciting news in the next episode, and I realised that sounded like I was teeing it up for something exciting. And I don't have any exciting news, and nothing exciting has happened in the 2 days since I last spoke. So I'm really sorry if you were expecting some breaking news or something terribly exciting, because no, there is nothing. What I do have for you is an update on what I've been doing up on the plot and some other bits and pieces to share with you. So more dahlias have gone in. Not a staggeringly exhaustive number, and certainly not all of them, but I'm getting there. So I'm gradually working my way down the slope where the soil is a bit deeper, but it's still quite patchy. So like what happened with the last lot that I put in, I'd have a really big dahlia in the spot that I wanted it to go in, and I'd dig a hole and just hit the chalk within about 10 or 15 centimetres, which is horrific. So then you have to shuffle along and find a better place. And that happened quite a bit tonight. And also I had to do a bit of digging out of nettles, because I'm actually planting into an area that Nigel had scraped, the digger man. And so where I thought on the surface it all looked lovely, when you start to dig, there were some nettle roots, and I don't want those getting wound around my tubers. So a little bit of digging there. Some more cornflowers have gone in, and these guys have gone in closer together. So if you're a regular listener, you'll know I did this really complicated mesh staking system for the cornflowers, and then they still fell over. So what I've ended up doing is chopping up some canes into smaller pieces so that I can individually stake the cornflowers. And this is something that I did not want to be doing this year, because it's time consuming and it's just not a good use of canes. I did grow my cornflowers last year in my trail beds, and they fell over, which is why I've tried to, head that off at the pass this year, if you like. And I didn't want to plant them too close together, because I remember how big they got last year, and they send out all these side shoots and you end up with this great big bush of stems, which is great, and I'm not complaining. So they're all spaced 20 centimeters apart, and they're filling up their little spaces. So that is fine. I was right about that. But I just thought that the sort of mesh, the string mesh, would be enough support for them, and it turns out that it's not. And the other reason why it's been a problem is because they are in a field, and so they're not, yes, they're supported by each other, but if you just grew cornflowers like in your garden, they'd have the support of other plants around them, whereas these guys are in rows all together. And we have had quite a bit of wind, and they are, I wouldn't say it's an exposed spot, but it is in a field, and it's not like a walled garden or anything. The wind can come in all sorts of different directions, and it does really funny stuff anyway. And sometimes when it sweeps down from the woodland, which is going to be in a easterly direction, then it does really weird stuff, and it's actually coming through trees, so you think they would give some kind of protection. Anyway, cornflower staking, what I've done is use the bamboo canes, and then going forward I'm actually going to put more string between them, and use the string to support them. But for the moment, the canes are doing the job. And because of all this successional sowing I've been doing, they're all at different stages, so I can test out various different techniques as it goes along. Nothing else needs staking, mostly because everything else is quite tiny and it's still just sitting there. So there has been some growth, some momentum. I had a small batch of, and I do mean a very small batch of Dihydiscus to go out the other day, which is joining an existing batch of Dihydiscus. And I thought, oh, I'll be really clever here. I'm not giving these guys a separate area of their own. I will just interplant the existing with the new stuff. And that's all the Dihydiscus in one place, and that's all done. So I did it, and then I found a whole tray of Dihydiscus in the back of the greenhouse. So I'm going to have to put a whole new area for the Dihydiscus anyway. And what was disappointing was that the ones that went out yesterday or the day before were actually the same size as the ones that have been on the plot for a couple of weeks. So it's just a bit like, oh, I know everything just has to readjust when it gets out there, and I get it, but you kind of think, God, I could have just left everything at home on the mains water and just kept it all here for ages and then put it out when it was bigger. Anyway, that is that. I've been doing some weeding as well. I have abandoned the letting the weeds just sort of provide ground cover because we've had virtually no rain and it's all getting a bit tense out there. So I thought, no competition. My guys are just going to be flying solo on this one. I discovered tonight when I was trying to fill up one of the water butts that I can't get any more water out of the water bowsers because I think there's not enough pressure, not enough volume of water in the bowser to drive it down the hose pipe and then along the hose pipe and then uphill a little bit in order to get into the water butt. So I've got 400 litres of water that is accessible only with a watering can. So that's loads of fun. Not. The sweet peas are going great. They have finally got the memo. They've clearly got their roots down. They're having actually plenty of water, and that is probably the secret more than anything. Everybody needs a little bit of time to adjust to being outside, but I feel like water is clearly the limiting factor. So the sweet peas get 2 washing up bowls of water at the very least every day, because when I empty out the duck water, they get it. And I just tip it down a slope and it runs down the slope through the fence panel and everyone has a drink. So such a shame that I don't have any more water. Otherwise, everybody could be having the great start that I wanted them to have. Disappointingly, a couple of the zinnias have damped off, just 2. Just rotted off where the stem meets the soil. Very disappointing. Don't remember that happening last year. But I guess, I don't know. I mean, the soil isn't damp. It's not wet. They're not sitting in wet soil. Maybe I've planted them too deeply and I don't know about that. I'm going to monitor that and make sure it doesn't happen to any more of them. I had a bit of a disaster this morning, not to do with the plot, but a guy that used to have the chickens on the plot who doesn't anymore. He rang me up and said, oh, can you bring me round the sprayer and a bottle of Roundup that was in the feed room. Now, I'm chemical free and always have been for years and years and years. I won't use anything, but I took over the feed room from this guy and he's still got loads and loads of stuff up there, just boxes of screws and not that much actually anymore, but just sort of, I don't know, not even tools, just mostly screws and things like gatepost bits and door handles and just random stuff that you collect over the years. Anyway, he rang and said, can you drop the sprayer and the Roundup over? And I said, yes, no problem. And I had filled the back of the car with cardboard boxes to take up to the plant nursery this morning. So I wedged the sprayer and the Roundup in there, got to the plant nursery where I'm still making hanging baskets, unloaded all the boxes. And then clearly when I drove off home, the sprayer fell over and leaked out of the top all over the back of my car. Now, mostly it fell into a big black tray that I use for potting on and carrying things around. But it also leaked out of that because there are speed bumps and all sorts of things that I go over, and then so it basically spread over the entire back of my car. which is really bad news, because it's just soaked into things like the back of the car and my baseball cap and a whole variety of things. Luckily, it didn't go anywhere near my toolbox or where all my secateurs are and stuff. But it's pretty devastating, really. And funnily enough, when I was driving home, I heard water sloshing around, and I just thought, well, I must have misheard because there can't be water sloshing around in the back of my car. Turns out it was just Roundup. So I then had a dilemma. Well, what am I going to do with this Roundup? Like, what do you even do with it? I don't think you can put it down the toilet, and I don't think I could have logistically done that anyway. But I don't want it to be on the plot anywhere because there aren't any chemicals on the plot. It is just pristine. So in the end, I ended up pouring it on the bonfire. And I'm not sure whether that was a good idea or not, but I haven't even rinsed the tray out. I've just left that propped up. I felt like the whole thing was so contaminated that it all just needs to go, in a black sack and in the bin. And I thought, no, don't be silly. There must be a way of cleaning it. So I'll have to look into that and yeah, and just sort that out. So that was just an unexpected problem that I could have done without. Also, while I'm on the subject, like, why are the materials used in cars so impossible to clean? Like the sort of, not the carpet, but it's like the stuff that they put on the back of the seats and stuff. Like the smallest breeze, and all of these sort of green waste things get stuck to it, and bits of grass and mud and all sorts, and then you can just never get it off. And I just think surely there could be a better material. So I put a tarp down in the back of my car because I have the seats down all the time. And I put not a tarp down, not because I'm precious about my car, because it's very, very old and absolutely nothing special, just because if I make a terrible mess or spill something, like, there's some degree of protection. But honestly, those materials that they use in the cars, just, it's a mystery to me. So, some exciting news. I have caught the attacker of goose. So, my hen, who had a huge hole carved into her bottom, turns out it was one of my other girls called Mo. I didn't think it was going to be a rat, because although we've got rats up there and they have a go at the eggs sometimes, I have never known anything like that to happen from a rat. So, I've got cameras up there. And I've got a couple of broody hens at the moment, Florence and Danny Minogue. So I put one of the cameras in the nest box to work out what's going on. And I caught Mo literally red-handed. And the camera's got audio, so if I wasn't clear on what I was looking at, I could hear poor Florence as Mo just stood there and plucked half a dozen of her feathers out. And Danny Minogue is a quarter towards being oven ready. She's just, yeah, they're obviously very vulnerable when they're broody, and they don't want to go anywhere. They'll just stick it out, whatever happens to them. And Mo's obviously got some issues, some unresolved issues there. Anyway, so Mo has been separated. She's gone into the enclosure with Roland and Chelsea Bun. And she's not going to enjoy that because Roland is, Roland's like a teenage boy, basically. He's only got one thing on his mind. But there's nowhere else for her to go, and I don't want her to be alone. So she will just have to crack on with that. But it's nice to have worked out exactly what happened. So I'm still making hanging baskets, and I'll be back there next week making a few more. They're pre-orders that I've been making, but we're also going to be making some that people can just buy. Anyone that just walks in can just buy them. And I've been talking to a couple of visitors to the nursery this week, and they expressed an interest in courses on how to actually do these hanging baskets that I'm making. So that was really nice. So I'm going to put my thinking cap on and work out what that looks like for 2026, because that would be a very fun thing to do. And while I've been up at the plant nursery, I've been watching how they do all the watering. And it's not something that I get involved in because I'm freelancing to make these hanging baskets, but it is fascinating to see how they do it and the quantities of water that they get through. I'm so envious. I can't believe it. They've got one of those fantastic, I don't even know what you call it, and I'm probably going to make a mess trying to describe it, but it's like when you have the hose attachment, they've got like the long handled attachment with the sprayer at the end so you can reach up. Not that you need it for the hanging baskets because they're on an irrigation system, but it means you can reach to the back of all the shelving areas where all the plants are. And just so much water comes out. I'm like, God, this is amazing. What would it be like to have mains water on the plot? Oh my goodness. Oh, I'd be in heaven. But even they do an awful lot of watering, and they're still finding that the plants are drying out. So it is just extraordinary circumstances here. It's just phenomenally dry. Now, I want to tell you so that I remember it myself that I'm going to have to stop beating myself up that I'm not selling anything yet. So on my last episode, I did say, I haven't sold anything, not got any money, blah blah blah, and I have to stop with that mentality because it's very negative and it's not very helpful, and it is to be expected that I don't have anything to sell because I have some things ready, like some things are flowering up there, but not enough to make a bouquet up or to offer them to the florist. Like, what are they going to do with like 3 or 4 stems of something? It's not going to be worth their time. And I just don't think that I was ever going to be ready early. I mean, I explained some of this last time, but I think it's worth reiterating, if only for my own peace of mind. But if you're in this situation as well and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I haven't got anything ready, well, there could be a number of reasons why. So for me, I don't heat my greenhouse. Like, I have electricity in it. I could have heated it. I could have put heat mats in, but I didn't want to pay for them. And I didn't want to start everything off under heat. It wasn't just a cost thing, but it sort of was, and it wasn't really. I just wanted everything to be natural, to arrive when it's ready. It seems to me a little bit odd if you're saying that you're a seasonal grower, which I do. The whole point of seasonal blooms is that they're ready when they're ready. So there's no point me saying, oh, I'm going to do seasonal and then do all these tricks to have everything ready like a month or 2 months before, because then it's not seasonal, is it? Because you wouldn't expect to see it then. Like, you're not going to have peonies in December because it's not when they're seasonal. So maybe I'm being too puritanical. I don't know. But I always had it in my head that everything was going to be ready when it was ready and ready at the appropriate time of the year. And it's really hard to stick to that when you see other growers producing stuff now. But that's what I said I was going to do. And I was going to go big on the dahlias this year because of all my work with Richard Bailey, my dahlia expert last year. And, they're not even going to be here till August. So there's no point even being like, oh, I'm late with the dahlias, because they're never going to arrive any sooner. And I don't have a poly tunnel. So I can't be pushing everything along. So I wanted to just say to you, if you're growing outside and you're not producing anything yet, then don't beat yourself up. If I was cutting from my own garden, that would be a different story, because I've been in my garden 11 years now, but I didn't actually, when I first moved in, I didn't do anything for the first few years, but I've got lots and lots of mature plants. So if I wanted to go outside, I could cut loads of well, my peonies aren't quite open yet, but in theory, I mean, I've got about 8 or 9 peonies out there, so I'll have plenty of peonies. I've got loads of orange blossom. I've got masses of foxgloves, nepeta, salvia, caradonna, roses, but the plot is separate from my home, and I didn't want to, and I don't want to cannibalize everything in the garden just to sell them, because then my garden will look awful, and there has to be a separation, for me anyway, between what's in the garden and what's on the plot. But so the point I suppose I'm getting at is, if I was starting my garden entirely from seed this year, which is what I'm doing at the plot, I wouldn't expect it to look like anything right now. It would look like what my plot looks like, only maybe a week ahead, because it's very, very sheltered in my garden, but then actually not that sunny because I've put lots of trees in. So, because that's what I wanted. So I did cut quite a bit of material from my garden, and I bought it inside because I wanted to be able to enjoy it inside, because I'm so busy and rushing around, as you can probably tell. that I am not sitting in my garden just looking at everything and admiring it. So I thought, bring it in, and then it's right there in front of you. So I've done a couple of arrangements. I can't do anything small. So I've got the most enormous arrangement on the kitchen table, which is just in the way of everything. And it's absolutely stunning. So I've got roses from the garden, obviously everything from the garden, peonies, orange blossom, Nepeta, I've got an Aquilegia, foxglove, and then some lavender that I cut from a garden that I was doing yesterday, and also some hellebores, old hellebores. They've gone over, they've kind of gone to seed, and I think they are just absolutely stunning, and they're all sort of bent over. And they look amazing. So it made me realize, like, it is perfectly possible, Lydia, to produce something at this time of year if you had those plants on the plot. So, mental note, these are the things I need to have on the plot. And speaking of looking at what other people have got on Instagram and wondering why you don't have that. So, I made that mistake earlier on today, and I was looking at what people are doing on Instagram, and they're doing these wonderful little videos, and firstly, they're on flat land. Oh God, I'm so jealous. Secondly, they're collecting things with small, like tiny tractors, like not even a tractor, like a smaller thing than that with trailers. And I'm like, oh wow, that's amazing. And then thirdly, they've got all these bouquets and they all look fabulous. But fourthly, and this is my key point, they've got sort of dogs lying around in the photos or the videos, just sort of relaxing, enjoying the sunshine. And I just think, wow, how have they done that? So I take my dog up to the plot and she gets bored within 5 minutes. And luckily, she doesn't dig, which is great news. But she sort of whines and whimpers, gets a bit cold. I have managed to distract her with looking for Ratty. That's our new game now. We go looking for Ratty. But I have to be very careful with that game because I don't want her to actually get anywhere near a rat. We've already had a couple of ticks that I've had to take off her. And so I'm thinking, well, actually, that's not a game that we probably should be playing. And I know she loves it, but she also comes home covered in all sorts of bits that then have to be brushed out. So yeah, she's never lying down in the sunshine looking relaxed or just hopping up between some pretty flowers or anything. She likes to pick fights with Roland. So that is a game that she is really enjoying at the moment. And I don't think she takes it seriously, but Roland takes it very seriously. And he's a young man and he's defending his territory. So they have absolute shouting matches between the gates. So I end up, often just going back to put her in the car, and then I just feel incredibly guilty. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Clearly, I've got the wrong sort of dog. My last dog, she wouldn't have stayed on the plot at all. She'd have just scarpered. She was always escaping. You could never let her off the lead because she just would bolt and just never come back. Or she'd have eaten the chickens because she used to eat absolutely anything. At least this one, Skippy, she is very respectful of the chickens, apart from Roland, which is why I think it's a game. Anyway, I could talk about the chickens all day long, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I should stop because this is not a chicken podcast. But I hope that you've enjoyed the episode. I hope very much that you will come back and join me for next Tuesday's episode. I'm not going to make any promises about exciting things to tell you or anything. I just know that I will be back on Tuesday with some updates. And oh, yeah, I totally forgot because I put this on my Instagram at Hen Hill Cut Flowers that I had my first slug on the plot. I can't remember if it was yesterday or Wednesday. Anyway, it was a Spanish slug, and I was doing a bit of weeding between the eryngiums and the orlia, and there he was, just sat there. So I fished him out very carefully, took a photo, put it on the Instagram, and then I Googled what it was, and he's a Spanish slug. So they eat everything, not just dead, dying material, which is what a lot of slugs do, like the leopard slug, although they eat smaller slugs as well. But the Spanish one eats absolutely everything. Living stuff, dead stuff, poo, apparently, which is horrible, and dead animals. So he took a short flight over the fence panels and hopefully he survived. I mean, I don't want anything to die. This is my thing. I try and preserve everything, but I just don't want them in the plot. And maybe he'll either forget where he was or not be able to remember how he got in there. So that was that. He's the first one I've seen. I think I had one leopard in there last year, and I wasn't worried about him because they normally eat everything else. But this chap, I thought, oh, I don't know if this is the start of something or just a one-off. Anyway, I've got to keep an eye out for that. And thank you if you were um, a person that sent in a message wishing me all the best for the funeral or hoping that it went well after the funeral. That was very kind to get those messages and to know that you were thinking about me. So that's really sweet. Okay, I've got to stop now. I've got to stop. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Fingers crossed for all of your growing and all of your seedlings and everything. And all the very best. And I will catch you next Tuesday.